going to talk about the energy super cycle and why we think it's unstoppable. And to do that, and just in terms of our guests here, to my right here we have Elisabeth, who's the CEO of Statnett. Statnett is the Norwegian utility, or no, sorry, Norwegian grid operator. And then beside we have Toshi here, who's the executive chairman of Hitachi. And then on the end there we have Andreas, who is the chairman or the CEO of Hitachi Energy. All right. So let me just sort of give you a little bit of context here before we open up to everybody, right? So you use the phrase super cycle. Now, when I hear the word super cycle, I think of commodities. And actually, I think probably a good place to start about that is to talk about fossil fuels. Because we're not going to talk about the fossil fuels being in a super cycle. But I have to explain that. So if we look at fossil fuels across the world, we've probably seen peak demand for oil. All right? We've also seen peak demand for coal. Now, we've got one fossil fuel where we're going to see demand increasing going forward, and that's natural gas. The reason is it's clean and it's very low cost, right? And also it fits very well in if you're going to build a future system built around clean renewables, clean nuclear and stuff like that. So this is what we see. Now, let me just go to the supply side. So today, if I look at the oil industry, we have an excess of supply. And by the way, I'm not including the fact that, let's say, Venezuela has the biggest oil reserves in the world, and we're not exploiting them. The point about it is lots of oil out there and weak demand. I then go to coal. Nobody wants coal anymore. Okay? And it's not about climate change, it's just it's dirty, right? And there are cheaper alternatives like natural gas. So we've got declining demand for that and we've got lots of supply of it. Now, what does that mean? What that means is there's no super cycle in the fossil fuel area because it's high risk. Why would I put money, and I'm a finance person, why would I put money or capital to work in an area where I don't know what's going to happen with demand? Okay, so why are we talking about a super cycle in energy? Because we're actually talking about a super cycle in electricity. Very different, all right? So let me just talk a little bit what that is. If we look going forward, what we're going to do is we're going to electrify nearly all of our energy system. Why? Well, one is it's clean, it's efficient, it's low cost, and guess what? Not one of our digital devices can survive without electricity. Not one. And I have a very simple example, right? I come from Ireland. My home in Ireland had no heat the last 2 days. Let me explain why. They have a little control box on the wall, and believe it or not, it's battery powered, and it went out of batteries. So the point I'm making, even though we're burning natural gas in the house, the controls all use electricity. You use an internal combustion engine car today, the controls use electricity. We cannot do without electricity. I can do without coal tomorrow. I can do without oil. I cannot do without electricity. Now, to add to that, I go and talk about the whole area of digitalization. Well, if I look in the Western world, what we've seen is electricity demand fall for the last 10 years. Not a great place to put your money, right? Mm. Well, guess what? Now we're seeing electricity demand go up. Why? Because of artificial intelligence. Yeah. All right? Really, artificial intelligence is a very big game changer for this whole electrification space. Now, you might say, we got all this growing demand for electricity. Where's it going to come from? Well, let me just talk about the technologies that are revolutionizing the supply side. The first one is solar. Now you might go, oh my God, solar, how can that revolutionize the world? So let me just put this into perspective. Last year, we installed across the world 600 gigawatts of solar. Now, I'm going to compare that to nuclear. Nuclear, there was 3.5 gigawatts put online. If I look at gas, 10 gigawatts put online. We have never seen an energy technology come to market as quickly as solar. Why? It's easy to install, and it's cheap, and it's getting cheaper, and the performance is getting better, okay? So that's number one. The second thing is energy storage. People always talk about energy storage as a black box out there, we don't need it. Let's be really clear. Every energy system needs storage. So the current storage mechanism in the electricity system is called a pile of coal that's sitting in a coal bunker, or it's gas sitting in a gas tank. That's what we use in terms of storage. Now, going forward, I'm just going to say to you that we're going to go towards chemical storage. We're going to use lots and lots of batteries going forward. And I'll talk about lithium-ion. Lithium-ion batteries is not just revolutionizing the automobile space, but it will revolutionize what's going on in our homes and our buildings. We will have these batteries in our homes. And I don't mean just for our digital devices. We'll do it just because it's cheap, okay? And it matches very well into solar. And just to give you an idea of the scale, we now have 1,000 gigawatts of batteries that came online last year, most of them in electric cars, all right? If I went back a few years ago, you were probably at 100 gigawatts. So the scale of increase is incredible. Now, the third thing, and this is the game changer, is how do you connect all this together? You connect this together with digitalization. Now, digitalization is sensors, it's semiconductors, it's connectivity of your mobile devices, and more importantly, it's artificial intelligence. And I'm going to end on the artificial intelligence because this is a game changer. And it's not just a game changer in the sense that you can connect everything together and make it a much more efficient system. For those of you who realize what's going on in artificial intelligence today, the latest AI models are up to the PhD standard of anyone doing a STEM qualification today. That's any science, technology, or mathematics. Now, what does that mean? Well, guess I'm going to have lots and lots of people helping me innovate faster than ever before. And because I'm going to be able to innovate faster than ever before, what this means is that technologies like nuclear fusion, small modular reactors, you name it, are going to come to market much quicker than we are before because we will have real innovations in the area of material science. And I even go far to say we'll find new elements. And we might even come up with new physics laws, right? That's the extent of really what is happening in the world. Now, what does that mean for me in conclusion? Well, actually, that doesn't sound like a small thing. That sounds like a revolution. And if I go back in time, the first energy revolution, or the first industrial revolution, was a combination of coal and steam engine. So you needed the steam engine to drive coal demand. Then the second one was the automobile. It drove oil demand. Now, digitalization and AI, what they do is they push electricity demand, and in particular, it's going to be clean electricity. And again, clean electricity because of the innovations going on. And my own view is that the revolution that we're going through now is going to be bigger than the Industrial Revolution, either of the last two. That's how big it is. Okay, and that's why I'm sitting here to talk about this. So at this point in time, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to hand over, and I'm going to hand over to Toshi and hear his views from a systemic level about what's going on in the energy space, and in particular electricity.
Okay. Thank you, Gerard. First of all, let me talk about Hitachi's social innovation business first. And Hitachi promoting the social innovation business, which is the provider intelligent infrastructure, such as a railway system or a power grid system, and so on, by leveraging digital technology all over the world. And that means Hitachi has a capability of developing the AI, also nuclear power plants and or power grid or something like that. You mentioned how to combine and with the clean energy and how to make the people happy. This is one of the very important social innovation targets. And Hitachi is committed to solving the social challenges. It is, including the carbon neutrality, very important. And as you know, global CO2 emission reaches 31.4 billion tons in 2022, and about 50% from Asia, especially India, China, and India. And while the U.S. accounted for the 13%, and these so we have to solve these kind of CO2 emission we have to reduce all over the world. It's a very urgent problem, and also it is a very important for the human being all over the world. And also recently, you mentioned the generative AI, has become increasingly widespread. And as a result, the consumption of energy consumption in data center, as increasing, and this is a very, the adoption of the generative AI is expected to, accelerate even further. So we have to solve this issue. Everybody uses generative AI, and also we have to, reduce the CO2, and that means we have to provide a sustainable power supply while ensuring the carbon neutrality. We have to solve these kind of the holistic solution, holistic problem. Well, everybody use generative AI as much as possible, but we have to control carbon emission. So we have to solve this kind of issue from the supply side and demand side. Also the power transition. Holistic solution is very important. And the Hitachi probably provide from the solution supply side, probably we provide a total system, renewable energy, solar power or wind power to control the storage, and depending on the next day's weather, we can control the charge or discharge schedule. We have provide such kind of the system. Also, Hitachi can provide the nuclear, a little bit long term, but Hitachi have already experience in the big size nuclear power plant, 1.1 gigawatts in Japan. And also now we are developing the SMR, 300 megawatts SMR with GE Hitachi. It is a joint venture with GE. So we've already developing, and the first user, the first reactor will be installed in Ontario, Canada, by 2029. And we can provide probably once we can complete development of the SMR, we can deliver all over the world. I think it mitigate the risk, and also the easy to install. Not so long term, but easy to install. So it is one solution. And second, Hitachi Energy will provide efficient, power transmission. That is very important. And also Hitachi provide the data center solution. We can provide optimize data center handling, including a cooling system or energy management system and so on. So we will do our best to provide sustainable energy while achieving the carbon neutrality. But probably Hitachi Energy will be the very important role to solve this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Elisabeth, I mean, you come from Norway, and if I look at Norway, Norway's really at the forefront of electrifying its energy system. And I mean, you've been doing it for a long line in the sense of heat, but now, in terms of transport, construction, et cetera, you're all at the forefront. So tell me a little bit about your experiences, and then what are the challenges now as a grid operator?
It's a funny thing that you say that we are in the front, because I think it's just natural to us. We've had hydropower for many, many years. And all the houses use electricity for heating, and they have been doing for many, many years. in 2010, we launched a strategy in Statnett, and we called it The Future is Electric. And everybody laughed at us, not thinking about that they were using electricity already. But we have been totally dependent on oil and gas, of course, huge incomes to the whole Norway. But they didn't believe that actually in 2010, they didn't believe in an electric future. Just before Christmas, we launched a new strategy. Well, we had a few strategies since 2010, but keep calling it The Future is Electric until now. And what we call it now is electrification for a new era. Because it's suddenly, I think Norway realized in about 2018 that the future were no longer electric, the future were suddenly here. And in this strategy, because we have seen the demand from 2018, and we are in no position to meet this demand at the moment, even in Norway. And they are all very angry with us because we are responsible to meet this demand. And as we say, we who are responsible for the grid, that there will not be any transition without transmission. And I think people maybe sometimes forget that. So what we're doing at the moment is to really use technology to get the most out of the grid and the power system we are operating today. And while we're doing that, we're planning and constructing a whole new transmission grid also in Norway. Mm-hmm. I mean, we are really well off before because we have been constructing and really reconstructing a transmission grid from 2010. But now it's getting really old, the transmission grid in Norway, and the demand is huge. Another issue, and I think we share that with all of the world and with Europe, is that really we must be working on the energy security and accelerate that. And the third prioritized area in this strategy is to enhance the resilience of the power system we have today, both in operation and development. And we mustn't forget that Europe is the world's most interconnected power system. And that's really something that if something goes wrong in one region, if we don't have a really resilient and robust power system, it will really have an impact on the whole Europe and the neighboring regions. So Norway is a part of the Nordic region, and we are really focusing on how to make it even more resilient going forward, because we are all getting very dependent on electricity.
Totally.
And then we have to go into, we all know the geopolitical situation, but we also need to improve the supply chains in Europe. And we need to think about spare parts. We need to plan in the power system. We need to plan in security. From when we start planning, we need to think about construction, because either we like it or not, a grid, it's a very physical. It's not very easy to hide. So you really need to focus on security from when you start planning the system. And I think what's happened in Europe since 2022 is really made us, and the geopolitical situation, and the fact that the whole world is right in the middle of this transition, and the supply chains are very, they're not very robust for us from our side, because everybody's right in the middle of the transition. So that's why that is the third prioritized area in our strategy is to accelerate the energy security, both as part of Norway, but also in the region we're part of, but also as a part of Europe. Yeah.
Andreas, maybe just to follow on from that, can we start about energy security? So how do you help her and grid operators in that whole energy security resilience area? Because the whole point is, without electricity, we can't do anything, right? Simple as that.
I think it's an interesting question and point. And I think you are completely right, Elisabeth. I think until a couple of years before, energy security and safety was either completely ignored or just seen as a technical term. What happens if a overhead line is falling down? I think the whole thing has become a complete new dimension. And one aspect why we see so much renewables as well growing at the moment is that the point of energy security and safety is read from a different angle. If I don't sitting on coal, oil or gas, I'm dependent from imports. And I don't want to be dependent from imports. We have seen what can happen. Oil and gas that's why definitely going down, even in countries which have been traditionally big oil importers like China and India. India has a clear strategy to get rid of all imports of oil and gas in the near future. That's a 180 billion price ticket, and rely on renewables because the sun is always local and the wind is always local. But of course, it's not only that angle which we could discuss. As well, as Elisabeth stated, her net is stretched, to say it mildly, maybe overloaded. It's aging. It's creating issues as well. So how to make that more reliant and more resilient in a technical way as well. And actually, yes, building new things, when we're doing it together, that's one thing, but it takes longer than expected. It needs assets which are rare. I think we have to use IT and OT to do that as well. Looking at the assets, how they are loaded, how they are used, and the AI can play a good role. Understanding better the consumption pattern, forecasting weather, really looking into the future. And really going through all levels and details on that. On the other hand, the installed base, what we have as an industry is huge, and it's not used and operated always in the most intelligent way. We are still in a way that after a couple of years, we exchange all of the transformer because we say so. We are not looking into it, was the transformer really used that much in that time? Do we really have to do that and have an outage? Can we use maybe predictive maintenance to forecast which part should be exchanged when? And maybe even in addition, even they have not failed, because to avoid every kind of single technical outage or issue makes the grid more reliable and more resilient. Of course, coming to the way what you said about Europe is the biggest connected grid in the world. You can get much more resilient if connecting it differently, not on AC, but on DC, where you have no interactions from one country to another. I think it's a complete new level. And I think, ironically, I would even say what you said, Gerard. Yes, the age of electricity, as it's called by the IEA, is fueled by AI and electrification, of course. On the other hand, AI will contribute a big part to solve that riddle, deal with the challenges of today and tomorrow to make the grid more resilient, more safer and more cheaper. Yeah. So I think it works on both ends, which I think is good news.
Can I ask maybe on that there, if I look at, say, AI, I think, as I said, I think it's the biggest technology change actually probably in the history of mankind. I see it as a solution as well, but I see it as a problem in the short term. Because if I just see Donald Trump, what he's announced, et cetera, it's a huge increase in data center, which means electricity.
My suggestion is, sustainable network establishment is very important to, transfer the power. That's okay. But when look at the practical solution in Asia, for example, more than 70% is energy comes from the thermal power plant, fossil thermal power plant, coal. So my proposal is we had better consider about the transit pathway. For example, in these 15 years, for example, we had better co-combustion with hydrogen, co-combustion with ammonia. We can reduce the CO2, right? It is a practical way. All we have to substitute, change the burner, existing the fossil coal thermal plant. All we have to change the burner, so we can reduce CO2. It is a practical way. So I dare to say, I'd like to propose such kind of transit pathway. But it is very difficult to understand in the EU area because especially banking, ESG investment, and they reject this kind of the transit pathway. But if we have a sustainable power supply in short term, we had better, I dare to say, we had better consider about such kind of co-combustion thermal power plant.
Thank you very much. Andreas, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a holistic approach to that. In the past, we have to say, in the drive for sustainability and climate change, we tended, especially in Europe, to go to a 100% solution, or better 110% solution. And that, of course, is very costly. It's always pushing for the ideal solution, but we all know, at least as engineers, we could do everything with unlimited time and budgets. But we have never unlimited time and budget, so we have to go for compromises. And going for an 80% solution, which is 80% efficient or sustainable, than doing nothing, is still the better way. And that's what Toshi is saying. There were better ways than switching off all things and creating now a problem which we have to solve on top of that, and still doing the right thing. And this is what we will see probably in the next couple of years. We have to find compromises on all levels, on regulations, on permitting, on construction, how building faster, and still finding compromise with society. Because the biggest hurdle actually for the transition or the energy transition is we're dealing with people. Nobody wants to have in his backyard anything, not a cable, not an overhead line, not a coal-fired station, not a gas station, not to say a nuclear asset. But it was always the same thing since more than 2,000 years. You can read about it that nobody wants in his backyard any change. So we have to find a compromise and say, look, this is the right thing what we are doing. This is what it cost us. These are the advantages. You see it in Norway, by the way, that the advantages are there. If somebody in Norway would have explained or stated 20 years ago, we stop using our own oil and gas and we're going to electrify everything, everybody would say, are you crazy? This is what we have. This is what we're doing. We are selling it, so why are you not using it? But now it's cheaper. An electric car in Norway is cheaper than a gasoline car. Electrification is cheaper, using a lot of hydropower. So I think we have to do that in a way which is technically acceptable for society, and then be solving the issues short term as well.
And Elisabeth, can I just maybe go back to something we touched on earlier on, which was interconnectors, right? How do you see the future then?
We have had interconnectors for many, many years in Norway. We have about 17 interconnectors. And at the moment, it's very controversial, politically controversial. And I think everything was going quite well because it's a part of being secure, energy security. And it's also, of course, a part of value creation. I mean, hydropower, we're selling it when we don't need it ourselves. But when the war in Ukraine happened and Russia went in there and we had, well, you all know what happened with the energy prices. And suddenly, we imported the energy prices. We've always had very stable energy prices in Norway. And suddenly, we didn't have any stable. And it was quite high at some time as well. And then this discussion really started. And that was, unfortunately, at the same time that we launched our, or went into commission with the last interconnector to the UK, right at the time, or just before. And then suddenly you said, you put, said that high prices, the reason for high prices in Norway was the interconnectors. And in some way, it was true. But what we trying to tell and trying to make politicians realize that having interconnectors, it's part of energy security. It's part of value creation, and we both import and we export, and in average, on an ordinary normal year, the price is not, it's quite good actually, and we see both that the prices last year were lower than the year before in average, but in the peak hours or when the price is zero, where they start writing about it and they start discussing it. So it's very controversial, but and it's not my job to look into the future and see how it goes. We have the interconnectors. It's a very important part of the security of supply in Norway, and it's also part of the security of supply in the rest of Europe as well. So you can't just choose to, if we didn't have any of these interconnectors, we have to really invest in a lot of production and a lot of grid in Norway, and that's the alternative. And we need to make people realize that that's the alternative, and that's why we're always discussing it, actually.
And Andreas, how do you see the future of interconnectors?
Well, actually, what you're saying, it has two angles, right? It's a technical angle. Interconnectors are helping with energy security and safety from a technical point of view, because if you don't have them, you have to build much more equipment on your own, which you can't share, which you only use in emergency, maybe never, and it's quite expensive. Building even a gas turbine as an emergency peaker, which runs maybe 600 hours a year, is nothing. It's actually having a car and never using it. It has a price tag, and the price tag is paid by every taxpayer. And so if you would really calculate that through, you pay in the end, without interconnectors, much, much more, and you pay it forever on a stable base. Yes, it's stable, but it's very expensive. From a market point of view, of course, yes, you're importing volatility, but the volatility is still cheaper than the average high price. But it's very hard to explain, especially in market systems where many customers, as in Norway, are directly connected to the market price and not having a tariff which is for a long time flat. Which system is better, even if you have, like in Germany, you have for a long period fixed prices, they just have the tendency to creep up because based on the volatility. So I think we have to just explain the complexity and say, look guys, there are not many possibilities either. We isolate ourselves and building it on our own, and that is the kind of price tag we have. It means more asset in our country, in your backyard. That means higher prices, more taxpayer money, or we have interconnectors and sharing risk as a community, and it has benefits as well, because you can exchange between UK and Norway energy. If you have enough wind energy in UK, the UK is exporting and you have a benefit, and vice versa. What is the best way? It is not an easy task, especially because we are coming out of a time period where this energy triangle between affordability, sustainability, and security was unbalanced, because security didn't play any price tag at all, technically or politically. There was no volatility, everything was fine. Now we see the downside, that the volatility comes due to security and safety and raising the price tag and creates volatility. But the risk was always there. And I think we have to balance it. There is no ideal solution. There is no magic trick we can play. There is no technical solution alone. That is something we have to have the discussion and say, look, this is the way it is.
Is there not another point that we should add to this, which is the demand side? In other words, if you create flexibility on the demand side, that's also a big part of the solution.
Yeah, definitely. But that's what I mean. We have a system which was created decades ago in a complete different circumstance. Now we have volatile generation, but we don't have volatile demand. And data center, especially Gen AI data center, actually adding volatility on the demand side, because they are unpredictable when they are starting and when they are stopping to learn at these huge peaks. So we have to use AI actually to predict that better and give our customers or your customers the benefit of flexibility and say, look, if you want to charge your electrical vehicle during the night, sorry, that's more expensive than you doing it during the day. So if you plan ahead, you have a benefit. And actually, in the industry and all my experience, what I've seen, if you give people an incentive and a little bit of this playing character, they love it. You know, as I put a solar system on my rooftop in Germany, my wife was telling me, why you're wasting all that money? We don't have nearly no sun in Germany, and what is it? Now she is looking very eager when the sun is shining to put all these things to work, right? She's even using that more than me, and even if the price difference is not that big. So I think there is something what we can do if we explain it better and we making actually our demand side as flexible and as volatile than our generation side.
Toshi, do you want to say anything about what's going on in Asia? And Japan in this area?
I think it is very important to establish energy security. And in order to establish energy security, we have to consider about how we can establish trust among like-minded countries. It is very important. And you know, after establishing the like-minded country group, we can link to the network, okay? And also we can share the technology among this group and how to reduce the energy consumption, or how to use AI by using AI, how to reduce energy consumption and CO2 emission. We can share. But judging from the current situation, there are so many, you know, geopolitical issues all over the world. So EU is one of the like-minded group. That's okay. But how to? There are so many, you know, different, you know. It is very the country which is very difficult to establish a trust. So how we can establish a trust and to consider about the holistic solution among the like-minded country. This is it should be the baseline.
Elisabeth, can you talk about the demand side, what you guys are doing?
We are working at the moment to get as much as flexibility into the demand side.
Okay.
And to look for customers that want to connect and disconnect when we want them to disconnect. Because we have a lot of peaks, we have a cold weather in Norway, and just to get them to disconnect for a few hours will help enormously. And that's part of, well, the point that we need to utilize the power system that we have in the best and optimize the use of the power system. That is having both flexibility on the demand side and at the production side as well. That's part of that.
Okay. Can I go back to what we actually started with, which was energy supercycle? I said it wasn't energy super. It's an electricity supercycle. What's your own opinions, and what does it mean for your business and how you see it going forward? I mean, I will start with you.
No, I don't know what to call it. I'm always wondering if we all say that we're in the middle of a transition. I believe that we are just in the beginning of the transition and a revolution or a super cycle. And we always say that 2030 is today and 2050 is tomorrow. So we are always in a hurry. I think we need to approach it both, I mean, as a society and both as between together with our suppliers as well, and in a very holistic way. And I think we need to rethink how we collaborate in a very different way, because we have no time to sit around and wait for someone else to pick up the bill or pick up the risk. I think we need to lean in and share the risk and share the cost, because we have no time to sit around and wait for someone else to dig in and do the job for us.
Toshi, how do you look at it?
Well, Elisabeth mentioned the holistic thinking. I think it is a very important keyword, because take for instance, recently it is very difficult to consider about, for example, carbon neutrality. and the circular economy, nature positive. These are seem to be the different issue, but we should consider about the holistic. I mean, in order to achieve the carbon neutrality, circular economy is very important. How to minimum, material input, and we reuse the product again and the material again. It is very important. We can reduce energy, and this also we have to consider about the nature positive. Or otherwise, if we throw away these products to the underground or something, it is something not so good for the earth, right? So in order to treat this one by using energy, it is a very energy consumption. We need to consider about the energy. So we should consider about the total holistic solution is important, and also. The beginning of the AI, at that time, we have to consider about the AI, ethical issue or something. But the important thing is how to adoption of the AI, generative AI is we have it is a very we need a lot of energy. So we have to consider about the energy consumption in the data center. We have to consider about the holistic solution. And as for the energy security, we should, use the everything that's renewable energy, nuclear, thermal power plant, and this is the co-combustion technology. We should use all of them, and that we can have some sustainable power supply by using all of them. So do not stick to this one, and consider about the holistic. That is a key word.
Andreas, I mean, if I look at your business, it seems like you have a huge opportunity in front of you. So do you get out of the bed every day excited? And what does it mean for you guys going forward?
Well, of course, we are excited about this age of electricity and the supercycle. And we not only believe in it, we feel it, and we know it's coming. And we are in the middle of that. On the other hand, you have to consider where we are coming from as an industry, Hitachi Energy and all the others. For 20 years, actually, we were fighting for survival, and the decision of the day was which factory we are closing tomorrow, and which we are not closing tomorrow. So, and now we are in that complete different situation. So I think the organization is feeling a little bit like a couch potato, sitting in front of the TV, having one package of chips after the other. And one morning, somebody is coming and says, look, you start running. You're starting running a marathon without training. You can train while you run. So the organization is stressed. Yes, we are investing heavily, 6 billion euros. But we have to hire 15,000 people in 3 years. We have to train them. We have to add them. We have to learn how to produce efficiently, because we were never running on 3 shifts in the last 15, 20 years. That creates other problems. So is it a good problem to have? Definitely yes. Because the other side of the medal was not good neither. But of course, it is a huge undertaking for us. There are huge challenges, quality issues, delivery issues. We are dealing with people, and our customers have to be with us, and we cannot satisfy everybody. But yes, it's a huge endeavor, and it's really be good to be in that industry at this time, especially if we are doing it really for the greater good. The electricity revolution and transition will only happen if we can supply equipment, and if we're using our existing equipment better and efficiently.
Very good. Well, on that note,